Hey Bookaholics, and welcome back to another reading vlog. Today we're doing another Read It or Unhaul It vlog. Today I'm going to be going through the 3 books that I think I am most likely to like. The 3 top ones that if I leave the country and I could take 3 books with me, these are the ones that I would take with me. These are the ones I would want to try and see if they are for me. So we're going to go through the books that I'm choosing for this vlog. I know that I did the random number generator last time I did one of those, and these are my priorities, and before I definitely can't take something with me, I would rather know for certain, especially because one of these is part of a series as well. If I like the first one, I will keep the whole series. The books in question are The Worthy by Anna K. Moss. In this story, we are following a prince whose sister had him abandoned on foreign soil so she could claim his throne. And I believe it is going to be a battle between these 2 siblings to see who will end up on the throne. The next one that I have is The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. This one is a story in which we're following a woman who has just married a wealthy merchant, and as a wedding gift, he has given her a miniature, like a dollhouse version of their house. And a miniaturist, so someone who is literally just kind of making the furnishings for this dollhouse, comes in and kind of like starts furnishing the house, and then strange things begin happening, and it's possible that the miniaturist is controlling all of their fates. So it's like a magical realism historical fiction, and I'm very excited to give this a try. And if I like it, there is a sequel and a TV series, so hopefully I will like this one. And the last one that I have for this vlog is Labyrinth by Kate Moss. This is one that's been on my TBR for a really long time, and I kind of just keep putting it off. This is the first book in the Languedoc trilogy, and it is following 2 timelines. The first one is in 1209 in Carcassonne, in which a woman named Alice finds a labyrinth and she has to keep it safe, although she doesn't understand why. And in July 2005, Alice Tanner is an archaeologist who discovers 2 skeletons forgotten in the French Pyrenees. Puzzled by the labyrinth symbol carved into the rock, she realizes she's disturbed something that was meant to remain hidden. So again, it's a nice chunky one as well. We've got 2 kind of like historical magical realisms, and then we've got an epic fantasy. So I think my friend Terry was the one that said that this wasn't really his thing, which is a shame, but I'm hoping that I will like it, and then I'm really excited for these 2. You never know how this is going to go, but these are the ones I'm most looking forward to getting to. So again, if nothing else, these are the ones that need reading before I leave, because I need to know if I'm taking them with me or not. So those are the plans for this vlog. I think I'm going to start with Languedoc, just on the basis that it is the chunkiest one, and again, it is a trilogy, so this is going to be the hardest one to like quickly sneak in. It's not one I can just chuck in a suitcase like the other 2, because these are just like, I've only got the one book. I mean, I know this is a series, but I've only got the one book, so these I could just chuck in a suitcase, but this is like a really chunky trilogy, so we'll have to see how I fare with it. But yeah, I'm hoping that I will love it. My mum is actually the person that read this. This isn't her copy, I bought this for myself. She likes these books, so even if I don't like it, it's probably not going to get unhauled. It'll probably just get left on the shelf so that she can have it. I'm hoping that I will love it. And again, that dual timeline thing, it can be a real hit or miss for me. I have yet to find, I think, a dual timeline that I love. Like, it's normally the downside of a book to me. It's like, even books that I like, the biggest downside is the dual timeline. For example, like The Maidens that I read recently by, I'll never forget her name, Kate Foster. Foster? I can't remember. Hers is dual timeline, and my least favourite part of the book. Amelia Hart's books have lost star ratings because of the dual timeline or triple timeline or whatever you want to call them. So we'll see if Kate Moss is the one that finally gets me to just love me a dual timeline. So I'm going to go start this off, and once I am a little ways in and have some initial thoughts, I'll check back in, give you some thoughts. Hey vlog, I thought I would check in because I have now read a considerable chunk of Labyrinth by Kate Moss. I am now on, I think it's like part 2. This is called The Guardians of the Books, which is on page 235. So far, I am really appreciating the way this book is working. It is a little bit exposition heavy, and the writing style isn't, like, the pacing, I suppose, it doesn't suit the writing style. Like, it's trying to put a lot in there, but it's also trying to put a lot of words in there, and then they sometimes are at odds with each other. But for the most part, I am really, really appreciating the history in here between Alice's fervent interest in history, and the way that she's researching this history is so cool, coupled with the scenes that we are getting that are set in medieval times, to set in the 13th century. I think that it does a really good job of showing the way that life was and depicting it really well. So between Alice's love of history and then Elise's lived experiences in history, I think that is coming together really, really nicely. So I'm having a really good time of it. This story so far is giving more like the story itself, like the beats of the story, are more like a murder mystery than they are like a historical novel. And I always find it interesting that a lot of the time dual timelines just inherently have to have a mystery to them. I think I have figured out what I think is obvious part of the story. I'm hoping that that doesn't come in as like a reveal. I'm not a big Holy Grail fan as a concept. It's not really my thing. I think Indiana Jones did a decent enough job, but like, it's not really my thing. But I do really like the concept in here because it is doing a really good job of pulling from multiple religions. It's, you know, at the end of the day, you have this big source of power throughout history, and it's always Christian. And I think that it's doing a really good job of pulling from different religions and different beliefs, and the way that we've got the Crusaders in here and the way that their beliefs function is really cool as well. So far, the way the history is playing out, and I think I'll have even more to see as I go on, I think that I'm going to really, really enjoy the rest of this book. I definitely think that I prefer Elise's perspective over Alice's, but not in a way that I don't want to read Alice. Like, it's never a point where I'm like, oh no, we're switching perspectives, which happens to me an awful lot with dual timelines. Normally when there's two timelines, I do prefer one over the other, to the point where I don't want to switch. I don't want to go to the other timeline. This one I'm fine switching. So while I do have a preference, it's not a distinctive, I only want to read this perspective, the other one feels superfluous, which happens most of the time. It's interesting to me because I have previously read Kate Moss. I read The Winter Ghosts. Is that what it's called? I can't remember. Hopefully I've put a picture here. I gave it 1 star. I should have DNF'd it. I really didn't like that book at all, and it was really, really dinky as well, and the pacing was still awful. So like, pacing's clearly not her strong suit, but the prose style in here is working better. So clearly, like, having a bit more room makes more sense for this author. So I'm really enjoying the prose this time round, thank goodness, because obviously this would be a very torturous read otherwise. I'm really liking the way that this is going, and I am really enjoying sinking my teeth into the history part. The history nerd of me is really catered to, especially because it's also making me want to look stuff up. Because while I have a decent working knowledge of medieval history, I am more of a modern history girly. So my area of interest is mostly between the War of the Roses through to the Regency. That's kind of my sweet spot. Anything before, I'm like, that's cool, I'm really interested, but there's a lot going on. And then anything after that, I'm not interested. So I am having a really good time with this because it's giving me the impetus to want to research these things and look into these things more, and to learn more about the time period and about the people and about the faiths as well, which is always really cool. So I'm excited to continue, and I'm going to go do just that. So I will hop back in when I've read another chunk. I think there are more parts for me to go, so I guess once I've read like another part, maybe, I'm assuming they're divided into parts for a reason, so I'll check back in with some more thoughts. Alright vlog, I thought I'd check in because I have now read another part, so I am now on page 530, and while arguably I could check in now just at the end, I thought the parts are there for a reason, so I'll check in now just in case something is different in terms of tone or whatever in the last third, well, the last part, the third part. I am still really enjoying this. I would say this isn't a very personal novel. This isn't one where I am really invested on an emotional level in the characters. And I would also say that while this is a historical fiction, ish. It's mostly a mystery. So think I've seen this compared to the Da Vinci Code. I DNF'd reading the Da Vinci Code, and I like the films a little bit more just because I feel like Tom Hanks makes for slightly less of a misogynistic playboy that you get in the books. But I am, not a crazy huge fan of the story. So this is along a similar lines in the sense if you've got an investigation into the Holy Grail. But this one is actually littered with someone who knows history or has actually spent more than 3 minutes on Wikipedia and also knows what a map is, which is quite impressive. So we have a lot of stuff going on here in terms of the way that we are discussing history in here. We have the Cathars, and then we have the different factions within the church going on, especially in the 13th century, especially when we're talking about like Crusade era, because the way that religious wars work is that religious zealotry gets out of hand, of course, but then also the way that worship happens change, because you end up with the kind of zealotry that means that people are suddenly okay fabricating things about their own faith to put themselves in positions of power and then pretend that that has always been the case and that it is holy, etc. And a lot of the attitudes of these people is really interesting. Now, the villains I don't like. I don't think that the villains are very well crafted in the slightest, and I think that they are a little bit too mustache twirling. The side characters in the contemporary timeline also aren't really contributing a lot, aside from you've got the villain, you've got a guy, and you've got a protagonist, and they all sort of represent characters from the past timeline. They're a mirror to one another. I think that's handled relatively well, the mirroring that we've got going on, and the past timeline character, I'm really enjoying her story. So this is me being like, I understand this book is mystery first, historical fiction second, but I was wishing that it's a historical fiction because I'm really enjoying the past timeline and I don't need the present one almost. Like, again, the mirroring is fascinating, and the way that, things echo through time is handled really well in here. It's not that I oppose it, and I do enjoy reading Alice as much as Elise. I just wish that we were focusing more on the history part, because the history part is done really, really well. So I'm a bit conflicted in the sense of, on the one hand, I think that the prose is really good. I think it's good writing style, but I also wish there was more to the writing when it comes to emotional attachment and connection. And then I think that the plot is really good, but I wish that we had more time with just the historical sections. And then I think that the dual timeline thing makes sense and is really well executed, but there is the history lover part of me that wishes it was just the past timeline, even though I think that the present timeline story is really good. So I'm a bit conflicted on certain things, but this is definitely one that I will be keeping, which means I will also be keeping the sequels, which is good. It means that there's more things that I'm enjoying. I mean, again, they could completely fumble the ending and then me hate it, but I think I'd still be curious enough to want to read the sequels just because of the level of like skill that I'm seeing in here. Now, again, I don't know if this writing style is going to be for everyone, because it does drone on at times, but I'm just finding that really immersive. But it might just be the mood that I'm in. If I were in a more impatient mood, I genuinely might struggle more with this book. So I'm a bit conflicted, I suppose, about it at the moment. I am excited to continue, so I'm going to hopefully go finish this one up, and then once I am done, I'll check back in and we'll see what my final thoughts, verdict, and rating are. Alright, vlog, I'm here to check in because I have indeed now finished Labyrinth by Kate Moss. Okay, so the ending let me down just a smidgen because we see our contemporary timeline essentially regale us with the events of the past timeline instead of witnessing them, which is not what I wanted, because I really enjoyed the past timeline. I loved the immersion of it, and I just felt, I guess, a little bit cheated in that last 100 or so pages where we could have still been getting more from the past timeline. I understand, I mean, I don't really understand why it was done that way, but it's a choice. It is what it is, and I guess it's trying to draw back to the fact that this book is a mystery first, a historical second. So I get that, like, it's trying very much to make sure it solidifies what kind of book it is, but it solidified it the wrong way for me. So I would have liked that to have gone a bit better. It's got a 3.5 on Core Pile. I've given it 3 stars on Goodreads. It was a really good time, and I'm really glad that I read this book, and I definitely plan on continuing the series. I don't know if the rest of the series, I don't know how it works as a series, if they're just kind of all companion novels, because obviously there are things here that can't really be sequels. I don't know. But I am looking forward to seeing what else Kate Moss does within this sort of sphere. But yeah, I think I just would have liked the historical timeline to have persevered throughout the whole story instead of us being informed of what happens, what the conclusion to that is, sadly. I do think that also, in a way, this book did a really good job of, I guess, wrapping up a mystery across time in a way that I thought was interesting. So it's definitely a really good book, and I'm really glad that I read it. And though I've only given it 3 stars, I am aware that at least a chunk of that is just based on my preferences in where I would have wanted this book to go instead of what this book did do. So I still have a lot of hope that the sequels will hold more for me, if that makes sense. I'm going to keep this, and I'm going to pack the sequels. I'm not going to read them immediately. I'm going to take them off of these shelves, and I'm going to pack them so that they're all with me so that I can continue on. Not a bad book. At least I've got that going for it, but also one that I think other books in this series might have even more potential. They might be able to do even more of the things that I liked about this one. Obviously, I think also with the potential for Kate Moss to grow as an author, there is the hope that her writing will progress throughout the series and I will enjoy it all the more. I'm looking forward to seeing where the series goes. So 3 stars for this one, well, 3.5 on Core Pile, 3 stars on Goodreads, and we move on. The next one I'm going to be picking up is going to be The Miniaturist, because I am hoping to also watch the show before this vlog ends. So I'll read the book, and then probably while I'm reading the next one, I can be watching this one, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I've read the little prologue-y bit. Part 1 starts in 1686, but the prologue was 1687, and we're at a funeral. So that's clearly alluding to something, which is very interesting. I'm very, very excited for this one. This is the one in which we are following a young woman who has recently married a wealthy merchant who buys her a miniature version of their house that she can then decorate. And it's her life with her husband, but then also to do with strange happenings that tie this like miniature house to the real thing. I'm very curious to see how I'm going to fare with it. I'm very excited. And the historical context, I'm sure, is going to be a lot of fun as well. So I'm going to go dive into this one. The pro style for that introduction was very interesting. It had quite a good allure to it, so I'm hoping it will continue to do so. There are 5 parts to this. The first part is a much larger one, so I think at the end of part 1 I'll check in, and then after that it will be at the end of part 3 and then at the end of part 5, so that then I'm not checking in a million times, because obviously I'm trying to keep this spoiler free, so there's going to be a limit to the amount that I'm going to be able to say if I keep checking in every 50 to 60 pages. You never know, I might feel compelled to check in before that. That's just kind of like the numbers that I've given myself in my head. So I'm going to go continue reading this, and once I have something to say, I will do just that. Alrighty vlog, it's time to check in, because I have now read the first part of The Miniaturist, so I thought I would give some thoughts. This is not exactly what I was expecting, actually. I mean, it is and it isn't. It is kind of along similar lines to a lot of the other sort of more darker, and not necessarily darker, the less vibrant, the less romantic books from this time period, from the modern era that you'd expect. I say modern era as a history fan, not like contemporary, which is what you expect now. Modern era being, if you are British, it is from the Battle of Bosworth and the beginning of the reign of Henry VII through until World War One. That is what encompasses the modern era in Britain. This is not set in Britain, this is set in the Netherlands, but it's still like the modern era. A lot of people define it by anything after the discovery of the Americas, if that's helpful. This is one that I do find really interesting. I definitely am really liking the setting, and it's got that really atmospheric vibe. Some films that I feel might fit in this category would be potentially something like Effie Gray for example, if you've watched that film with Dakota Fanning and Greg Wise in it. This one, we are following a young woman who was married at the age of 18 because her family were in decline, and she then goes to live with her husband. She arrives at his house and he's not there because he's gone on business, because they got married in her town, and then a month later she's to go to move to his house, and she's greeted by his very stern and very severe sister. And then eventually he comes back, and they never really consummate the marriage, and it's never really kind of pressed or anything like that. Then we have this sister who is kind of more the one that's in charge and runs the house, and we have the relationship between them feeling rather strained because she's rather unhappy because she's not living like a normal married life, because she barely spends any time with her husband, and she keeps trying to reach out and thinking that she's doing something wrong. I'm not going to get too much into this book. There's representation in here that I wasn't expecting, including that they have a black man as their main head of household, which is very cool. And we also have queer representation in here as well. It does treat it as for the time period, so it is something that is punishable by death. So I'm very excited to see where this is going to go. I was very shocked by where part one ended as well. Not shocked, but that it would, I suppose, depict it in the way that it's depicting it. I can't get into it, of course, but I'm very much intrigued. I've been really liking the way that we've been describing the miniatures as well. So we have had where her husband, as a wedding gift, bought her a dollhouse of their house, and then she commissions things from this miniaturist who sends stuff via post so that she can decorate this house so that it can continue to look more and more appropriate to their home. And then she kind of keeps finding things in the things that she's commissioning that either she didn't commission or that shows something that is eerily apt to what is going on in the house. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I don't know if we're supposed to be trying to figure out who the miniaturist is. I don't know if that is supposed to be something we are looking for. At the minute, I don't really care about who the miniaturist is. I care about what is coming in the post. You know, I want to know what the next miniature is going to be. So I'm very curious to continue. Her style is really enjoyable. I thought it would be flowerier than it is. Not that there's anything wrong with the writing. I just expected it to be flowerier, but I think this is doing a really good job of making the intrigue be the dominant force as opposed to the prose. And I'm excited to continue. And there is a sequel as well. So if I like this, I can hopefully grab the sequel once I'm in the UK. So I'm going to stop rambling now. I'm going to go dive back into this, and I will check back in once I get to a good place to do so. All right, vlog, I am now on part 4, so I've read parts 2 and 3, so I thought I would check in. This was a much more dramatic part. There was a lot of things going on in here. While the first part was a lot of setup, a lot of getting to know the characters, getting to know everyone's situations, everyone's motivations as well, and also setting up this bit with the dollhouse and the miniaturist and the kind of intrigue surrounding that. This is where stuff actually starts to happen. This is where we actually get events in the story. Interestingly, throughout the entire entire first part, I really did like Marin, and I struggled with Cornelia on the basis that they felt like they were out against our protagonist. And now that you understand the circumstances of everyone's lives and everyone's situations a little bit more, it's an interesting one because it means that you can understand why the characters are behaving the way they're behaving. And while it doesn't necessarily improve in terms of the way that they treat Nella all of the time, it is still very much giving you perspective. And actually, throughout, especially the third part, I really ended up liking Marin because she's really opinionated and she really does give her thoughts, which at the beginning sounds very much like judgment. And now you can tell that it's just the way she is. She is just someone who expresses her thoughts and who is also the backbone of this family. She's the one that's having to keep everything together. And I do really appreciate that. So I am looking forward to seeing where this next part's going to go, because there's so much that happened in this part that I am curious as to how the stakes are going to increase, because you know that this author is willing to put in the work to create a dynamic in which there are genuine stakes and things can genuinely go wrong. So I'm curious to see how I'm going to fare with the last couple of parts. So I thought I'd just check in and give some thoughts, and once I'm done with it, I'll let you know, and then we'll move on to the worthy. All right, vlog, I'm here to check in because I have now finished The Miniaturist. I really liked this, actually. I really appreciated the way this story went. I was really impressed by the stakes in this book. I think the author did a really good job of presenting these in a way that had a lot of emotional resonance as well as plot resolutions. I think that both were really important in here. This isn't the kind of story that you get attached to the characters, at least me personally. I didn't get attached to them necessarily on like a really emotional level. Like, these feel like real people and I feel like I know them. They did feel like they were there because they represented something within the story. They felt purposeful. They didn't necessarily always feel hugely authentic. But I think that it worked well for this kind of story. There is something about the resolution to this that I think is going to leave some people dissatisfied, which I actually really liked the choice that the author made for this when it came to what she decides to reveal and what she doesn't, and what aspects are, I suppose, magical realism in the sense of they are there to embody the themes, to highlight the themes of the story, as opposed to be revelation of a mystery. This leaned more into magical realism than it did into like a mystery reveal kind of ending, which I much prefer, because I always guess mysteries, but I was never trying to guess the mystery part of this. I was just curious, because it's never presented as though it's giving you breadcrumbs and then you have to find your way home. It is literally embodying those themes and bringing them to the forefront in an interesting way, in an innovative way. So I've given this 4 stars. This is in my read or unhaul pile, and while I've had a similar conclusion as well with Labyrinth, actually, can you pass me Labyrinth? While I've had a similar conclusion with Labyrinth, is that, well, with Labyrinth, I really liked this book. End up getting a 3.5 stars. So what I might try and do is read the other 2 books before I leave, as opposed to hauling them with me, or at least reading one more book. If the next one's like a 4-star read, then it might be worth my while to take them with me. But at the minute, I'm really culling my library, so I'm trying not to take 3-star reads with me. And this is not a book that is going to be difficult for me to come by should I choose that I want it. Like, this is in every single charity shop I've ever been in, so it's not a hard book to come by. So I think I'm going to read the next one. If the next one gets more than 3 stars, I'll take the series with me. So I have 1 box left open that I can squeeze some things in. With this one, I would like to keep this book, but I can't get a matching one of these to go with the sequel. The sequel's hardcover has this cover, like a matching cover for this, but the paperback is different. So what I might do is, if I really like the sequel as well, which I'll probably try and get from my library, because I'm going to actually be able to access a library soon, so I will potentially try and pick up the sequel from the library. And if I really like the sequel as well, then I can maybe just go get matching editions of the 2 instead of taking this one with me. As much as I much prefer this cover than the new covers, they're not matching, so it's going to drive me insane. Which does mean that we're on to the last book for this vlog, which is The Worthy by Anna K. Moss, and I'm really excited for this because I do love me a sibling rivalry. Again, a couple of my friends didn't like this one. I think my friend Terry either DNF'd this or rated it low. So I am just really hoping that I'm going to fervently disagree with them, because it's sapphic and it's sibling rivalry. You can't go wrong with either of those things for me. So I'm very excited. It's also an epic fantasy standalone, which again, there aren't a huge amount of those, and it is listed as dark fantasy. So I will let you know when I've gotten a little bit into this and can let you know how I'm faring with the rating style. So I'm going to stop yapping, get to reading, and I'll check back in a bit. Good morning vlog. I am here to check in because I did start The Worthy yesterday, so I thought it would be a good time to check in. I am now on page 90, so not like a crazy amount. I didn't get that far yesterday, but I did start it. So I thought I would kind of give a brief overview of my thoughts and how I'm faring so far, so that then I can do some lengthier check-ins later. Writing style so far has been quite interesting. It is a little bit chaotic. It is a little bit on the messy side. There is just a lot of you're thrown in and you kind of sink or swim sort of vibe to it, I suppose. I would also say that it isn't at the minute really drawing me towards any particular characters. It's not that kind of story. However, that being said, the characters themselves are incredibly interesting. We have several characters that we are following. We have two perspectives that are, I don't think they're quite alternating. I'm 11 chapters in and I feel like I've had more of Barston than I have Aelith. And then we had one other perspective that I'm not 100% sure who it was. So they were Tip. And I don't know if they're going to become like a recurring feature because we've only had one chapter of them so far. But we haven't had a huge amount of anyone other than Barston. Like, he is definitely the protagonist. And he is not the good guy, which is fascinating. I do love when Grimdark decide that they're going to show the villain, and not like a villain origin story where it gives them some level of redemption or at least you can understand why they become the way they are or whatever. No, we are following someone who is not a good person. It's that simple. So we're not supposed to like him. And he is such a snotty brat at times, and he's got full grown man toddler tantrums going on, and it's very much like, I am the prince, I am the ruler, I get what I want kind of mentality. And I am absolutely loving it because the times that we do get Aelith's perspectives are fascinating because she's not necessarily a goodie, she's not like the good guy, but by comparison she looks it, which is really cool. So that dynamic I'm really enjoying, so I'm looking forward to continuing. I would like, I guess, a little bit more of an emotional stake in it, but again, I'm not very far in. I'm not even 100 pages in yet. I still have a lot of hope that I'm going to enjoy this. I think I can understand why this wouldn't appeal to some people. Again, one, you're following a guy who is fucking disgusting. Like, he is a horrible person, so I can completely understand that being off-putting. I can also understand that, again, like the lack of emotion and how just chaotic it all is, like where you're just thrown in and you sink or swim. I can understand how that wouldn't work for people as well. It's entirely possible that I might be through the worst of it now, and I might now just continue to enjoy it. Fingers crossed I continue to enjoy it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to jumping back in and getting some more out of this. So that's what I'm going to go do. I will check back in now, I guess, once I'm past the halfway mark and have some more cohesive thoughts. We'll see if I'm still along for the ride or if nothing has ironed out and I'm still like, what is happening? Alright vlog, I'm here to check in because I've done some reading and I've also done some watching, so I thought I would give a bit of an update. I have now read an extra couple hundred pages of The Worthy. I am still enjoying this. It's not hitting in a way that's like, oh my god, new favourite material, but we've got some sapphic in here and we've got some grimdark, we've got some genuinely grimdark characters in here, and I'm really curious to see where this author's going to take it, if this is going to be a comeuppance style of story or if it is going to be a nihilistic style of story. I don't know yet. There have been things that kind of indicate it could go either way. There have been some things that seem a bit, yeah, I get it, go. And then there are times where it seems a bit, oh, okay, this is going to have a somewhat cyclical stance to it. So I'm excited to see how I'm going to fare with it, but I am enjoying the story. I do think that there is a lot going on in here, and I think that this could be better paced. This would potentially suit being a duology and having a lot of those scenes kind of fleshed out with more intimate character moments, but I still think that it's an enjoyable read. I think it is one that would be very easy to get lost with. I think it would very quickly become the kind of story that if you're not following and you're not binge reading it and you're taking your time with it, you might lose a few threads maybe. As I said, I'm still having a good time and I'm glad that I am reading it. So I'll let you know once I'm finished with it now, because I really don't have that much left. I've got like about 200 pages left. I appreciate it as a lot, but in terms of being able to give spoiler-free review for the last bit, I'll just wait until I've finished. I did also have a start to the mini-series of The Miniaturist. Mini-series of The Miniaturist. I'm watching it with my mum and we are one episode in so far. My mum's not read the book and I have, and so far we're both very much enjoying it. It's got Anya Taylor-Joy playing our protagonist Nella. We have one of my favourite actresses of all time, Romola Garai, who is playing Marin. I think the cast is doing a phenomenal job. I really do appreciate the way that they are bringing these really nuanced characters to life, because a lot of these characters don't have a huge amount of dialogue. It's not a very dialogue heavy novel, and it's not a very dialogue heavy show. And yet we're still able to see the layering of these characters through the magnificent acting that is being brought forward. So far we have basically seen in the first episode part 1 of the book. I think that the show is going to divide it up very similarly to how I divided it up. So I think it'll be part 1 for episode 1, which we've seen, and then I think parts 2 and 3 will be episode 2, and then parts 4 and 5 will be episode 3, on the basis that part 3 does have a very climactic ending, much more so than part 2. So it makes sense that they would divide it up this way. The episodes are about an hour each. They really don't overstay their welcome. I was very excited to continue. Me and my mum were going to watch it next weekend, but now we've brought it forward to watching it Tuesday and Wednesday instead, on the basis that we're enjoying it enough. I have purchased the DVD for Labyrinth because I can't watch it anywhere else, so I bought the DVD. So I'm hoping I'll be able to get to that before this vlog is out, but of course it will entirely depend on when it arrives. But so far, so good. I am very much enjoying my time watching, and I'm hoping I'll feel the same about the latter 2 episodes. Again, it's phenomenally acted, directed really, really well. The cinematography is stunning, and that balance between the mystery, eerie intrigue that comes with the miniaturist aspect, coupled with the historical drama aspect of the actual core of the story, I think are blending so well together. So I'm very excited to continue with that as well. So far I've had good watching and I have had good reading. So I hope that that will persevere throughout the rest of this vlog, and I will let you know once I have finished this or finished the show, whatever happens first. I suspect I'll finish this first. It'll only take me another couple days to finish this one, so I think I'll finish this and then I will have finished the miniaturist, because I'm finishing that Wednesday, but who knows, I might have a slow reading couple of days, so we'll see. Hey vlog, I'm checking in because I have now finished The Worthy by Anna K. Moss. I did really enjoy this book. I think that this is one that, because I went in with quite low expectations, it managed to surprise me. I don't think this is the kind of book that I normally would come away thinking, wow, this is the best book I've ever read. But I do think that because my expectations were low, it was able to impress me in ways that maybe it otherwise wouldn't have. I'm not sure. I really like the depictions of the characters in here. I love the grimdark elements, and this is one of the few times that I've read a grimdark that is actually grimdark, and I swear to God, more often than not, when a woman writes a grimdark, it feels like grimdark, and when a man writes it, it just feels like nihilism. This one had a lot of elements in it, and they were all kind of competing for your attention, and I can see how some people would hate that. For me, it just kind of kept me consistently engaged, because I really wanted to know what all of these different avenues that we were taking were meant to be. I think that the characterization in here was really interesting. I think that that was handled really well. So while it's probably not like new favorite material, it is a book that I did really appreciate what it was doing, and I am glad to have read it. I am going to, I think, take this with me. I think I'm going to keep this. While I'm not keeping Labyrinth, but I did really like it, and I am still undecided on the miniaturist. Every time I think about this, I go back and forth. So I'm just going to see what the box space looks like for this one, and this one I'll take. So we've got 2 that I'm taking, but we've got 3 successes in this vlog. I'm not going to wrap up this vlog just yet, because I am going to check back in and give you thoughts on the shows for both the miniaturist, which I've watched another episode of and I'll talk about, and also Labyrinth. So this vlog is going to go up a week later than I anticipated, but it is going to then have just a little chat at the end about the shows. So I'll wrap up the books now for anyone who's not interested in the shows, and then I'll just tack the show stuff on the end. To wrap up the books, we have Labyrinth by Kate Moss, which I ended up giving a 3.5 stars. I really did enjoy this. The ending was a slight letdown on the basis that I did want it to have more of a dual perspective still at the end, but that's okay. I really liked the writing style, and I am excited to continue the series. We have The Miniaturist, which I thought was a phenomenal book. It was really, really well written, and I've given it 4.5 stars. I really do think that this is such a hauntingly good book. It's got a fantastic combination of historical drama and magical realism mystery in a way that I could not have anticipated, blending this well. Managing to accomplish all of those things in such a small book was so good, and I'm really glad that I read it. And then finally we have The Worthy, which is a grimdark epic fantasy, and I think that it handled all of its topics really well. It continued to be really engaging and really thorough throughout the entire book, and I am really glad that I've read it. So 3 3 great books for this vlog, which means that once again, I am proving that I know my taste. Out of all of the ones on these shelves that I could possibly read, these were my top picks, and they are the ones that I have rated quite high, and they are the ones that I would consider taking. So I think I've done a really good job so far with these vlogs. I am unsure if I'm going to, 1, have the time, and 2, have the energy to continue doing this project. If I do, then I do, but this might be the last one of this project, which I know might be really disappointing because I've got so many books on here, but I am in the process of moving, so reading physically is proving quite difficult right now. And then on top of that, because these are all books that I am not enthusiastic about, hence why they're on here in the first place, drawing up the energy that it requires for me to make myself want to read something I'm not motivated to read right now is also really difficult. So I don't know if I'm going to continue this project or not. If I start to get a bit panicky and think, oh, if I don't read this now, I'll never be able to read it, then I might read some. Whether or not that will be a vlog project or just something that I do in the background is also yet to be seen. So that is it for the reading portion of this vlog. Let me know if you've read any of these and your thoughts on them. I would love to know. And now we're going to go hop into the watching part of the vlog, which is not something I've done before. I did watch the second episode of The Miniaturist, and I've already talked about the first episode. I have watched the second episode of The Miniaturist, and it's still doing such a good job. The way that it's paced, the way it does the reveals, it isn't exactly stopping at the points where I thought it would be stopping, which means that there's not a huge amount of pages left of the book for episode 3. However, the more I think about it, the more content they could still get out of it, where it would perfectly be able to be an hour-long episode, because it is the most action-packed chunk, because it is the third chunk of the book. So I think that they're still going to do a really good job of it. I think that the level of nuance of these characters is coming through magnificently with all of these actors. They're all doing such a good job. The depictions of the scenery is also really good. And while there is an element to do with the miniaturist that we're getting on screen that we don't quite get on page, I think that it is done really, really well. So I'm excited to continue with that. I'm watching the last episode today, so I'll be able to check back in and give you my final thoughts on that. And then hopefully my DVD of Labyrinth will arrive in time as well, so that I can get this vlog up. So I will hop back in once I have finished another episode and give you my final thoughts and overview of the entire series. Alright vlog, I have finished The Miniaturist and my DVD for Labyrinth has arrived. So I'm hopefully going to be able to binge watch Labyrinth. It's only 2 episodes, so I should be able to watch it today and tomorrow and then be done with this vlog. But I have finished The Miniaturist and I loved this show. I've been in my rewatch era. All I've wanted to do is rewatch things because I want my comfort shows. So I was a bit apprehensive going into this because also a lot of the time adaptations, they just don't live up to expectations. This was stunning, and even the couple of minor alterations that they made to the book I think were really, really well handled, and the alterations are so minor that it barely warrants mentioning, to be honest. It might just be the pace of something would be changed, or how much we interact with a certain character might change, but that's it. I personally think this was so well executed. It was an incredibly good show. The production of it was stunning, the cinematography was stunning, the acting was amazing, and it was such a faithful adaptation of the book. If it's a book that you think maybe prose-wise isn't going to work for you, but you're curious about the story, the show is fantastic, and you could definitely get away with just watching it, and it's exactly the same as reading the book, in my opinion. Similar experience, and also, again, the way that it weaves the different threads. You've got this historical family drama going on, coupled with this magical realism mystery, and I think both of those, the atmosphere of the two, are really brought to the forefront in a really good way. So I would highly recommend this show. I don't really have any complaints. Normally this is where I'd be like, but you know, if I don't have any complaints. Now, if this is of no interest to you, the book's of no interest to you, the show is going to be of no interest to you because it's a very faithful adaptation. I genuinely have no complaints. This was a fantastic show and I'm really glad that I watched it. I am, like I said, now going to go and move on to Labyrinth on the hope that I will be able to finish that soon as well. So once I have watched the first episode, I'll check back in. Once I've finished the second episode, we'll wrap up this vlog. So I'm going to go get to doing that now, and as soon as I am ready to say something, I'll hop back in. Alright vlog, I'm here to check in for one final time on this vlog because I have now also finished Labyrinth. I was going to check in after the end of the first part, but it's only 2 parts and I just kind of forgot to update you. So I'll update you on the entirety of the show, like an overview of the show, and then that's the end of this vlog. I didn't hate this show, but it did definitely overstay its welcome. The episodes are very long. I think it could have maybe been paced a bit better. I found the contemporary main character, Alice Tanner, very insipid, and I've seen Vanessa Kirby in other things, so I know she can act well. So I think it was more of a directorial choice, but she felt very insipid. I did quite like Sebastian Stan's character, who is playing Will, who is one of the other contemporary characters in the first episode, but by the second episode he also completely lost me. I liked the historical timeline substantially more. Jessica Brown Finley is again a little bit subdued as a character in this, and I would have liked a bit more fire in it, but again, I think it was a directorial choice. If you've seen her in The Harlots, then you'll know that it's a directorial choice. I definitely liked Guillaume and Tom Felton's character, who is the Viscount of Carcassonne at the time. Both of them, I think, were also really well crafted characters. So we've got a couple of characters that in the historical timeline that I think are really, really good. And I much preferred the historical timeline, and I would have been happy to have just watched the historical timeline. I would not have cared if I had never watched the contemporary timeline. We have 2 primary villains, and they are both women, and I appreciate they're supposed to be mirroring things. So Will is supposed to mirror Guillaume, Marie-Cécile is supposed to mirror Oriane, and then Alice is supposed to mirror Alay. The way that both of these villainesses are pitched is god-awful. They are some of the worst villains I've seen in a hot minute. And when you've got all of these other nuanced characters going on, it makes it look worse. This book and this show and everything about the story could have been so much more of a girls book and show than it was, and that also makes me sad. We have some women characters that are interesting characters in there. We have Alay's maid, who I think is really good. I just wish that I cared more about something. Again, historical timeline was really well depicted, really well shot, and like I said, has substantially more nuanced characters. The contemporary timeline felt like the femme version of the Da Vinci Code, and I say that as disrespectfully as possible. So while I didn't hate the show, there were things that I was glad to have watched. If this had been more than 2 episodes long, I would have noped out, because I was halfway through the second episode and wondering if it was worth my time, and it was only because I wanted to see how the historical timeline played out on screen that I actually bothered to finish it. If it had only been contemporary timeline, if it had done the same as the book, where the last bit we don't get to see it, we're just told it, I would have probably noped out of the show. If you like the book, I think it is a really faithful adaptation, which again, I liked the book. I didn't dislike the book. Again, I much preferred the historical timeline. In the first chunk, I liked the flipping between the 2. In the second chunk, I decisively liked the historical timeline more. At the end, I was very disappointed by the lack of historical timeline. And the show is exactly the same. I much prefer the historical timeline, and it impacts my enjoyment of the rest of the story. So if you like the book and you like all of the parts of the book, I think you'll like the show. I don't think there's anything hugely wrong with it, but it wasn't a show for me. I've got the DVD. I'm donating it to my parents because they like the books more than I do as well. Odd ending to this vlog, where I loved The Miniaturist. Fantastic adaptation, fantastic show. And then I could have done with liking Labyrinth a little bit more as a show. So that is it for this vlog. So that is potentially one that's definitely coming with me, one that may or may not be coming with me. I'm going to look at box space and I'm just going to see in the moment. I think I'll just have to make up my mind then and there. And one that is not coming with me, I am going to try and potentially get to the sequels before I leave. But if I don't, again, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to get my hands on them at a library. So that is all from me for today. So thank you ever so much for watching. Let me know if you've watched or read any of these books and your thoughts on them, or based on my enjoyment of the things that I did enjoy. If you have any other recommendations for me, I would love to know. And I will hopefully catch you in another one soon. Bye!